Thailand is in the core of Southeast Asia's continent with the area of 514,000 square kilometers. Many aspects of its society and culture have been impacted by Thailand's axial position. The earliest Thai speakers migrated from China, flowing rivers into northern Thailand and south to the main named valley of the Chao Phraya River. Rich floodplain and tropical monsoon climates, which are ideal for wet rice stamina farming, lure immigrants to this region instead of the marginal uplands and mountains in the north or the Korat Plateau in the northeast. By the 12th century, a loosely linked network of rice-growing and commercing republics had sprung up in the Upper Chao Phraya Valley. Beginning in the middle of the 14th century, these centrist chiefdoms gradually fell under the sway of the Kingdom of Ayutthaya at the floodplain's southern end. The cities that followed, erected at many points along the river, became the centers of distinguished Thai kingdoms for its rice farming and international trade. The Thai, unlike the Khmer and the Burmese, resumed to steer out across the Gulf of Thailand and the Andaman Sea toward ports for international trade. Thailand could preserve its independence as a buffer zone between British-controlled Burma to the west and French-dominated Indochina to the east when European imperialism initiated a new era in the Southeast Asian business in the late 80s. The country's geography is made up of huge mountains, a middle plain and an upland plateau. Mountains wrap most of north-end Thailand and extend all the way down the Malay Peninsula to the Burmese border. Thailand's primary river system, the Chao Phraya and its tributaries, drain the central plain and discharge into the delta at the head of Bangkok Bay. About 1/3 land of the country is drained by the Chao Phraya system. Korat Plateau, an area of tenderly undulating low hills and small lakes in the northeastern section of the nation, flows into the Mekong River by the main Nam Mon. The Mekong system, which comprises a network of canals and dams, drains into the South China Sea. By supporting wet rice production and supplying rivers for the transportation of goods and people, the Chao Phraya and Mekong system help Thailand's agricultural economy. Long beaches, offshore islands, and decreasing mangrove swamps, on the other hand, build up the peninsula, Thailand's natural characteristics. The north, northeast, center, and south are roughly divided by landforms and drainage into 4 natural areas. Although the capital of Thailand is physically part of the central plain, this metropolitan area may be regarded a distinct region in other ways because it is the capital and biggest city. The population, basic resources, natural features, and level of social and economic development of each of the 4 geographical areas varies from the others. Thailand's physical landscape is characterized by its regional variety. Fruits such as lychees and strawberries may be grown in the hilly north during the winter months since the temperature is cool enough. Street river basins and highland regions flank the central plain, cutting through these high mountains. The Chao Phraya watershed is created in the lowlands by a succession of rivers which are the Nan, Ping, Wang, and Yom. Historically, this natural characteristic allowed for a variety of agricultural practices such as wet rice farming in the lowlands and shifting cultivation on the uplands. The wooded mountains also fostered a sense of regional autonomy. Teak and other commercially valuable hardwoods originally dominated the north and portions of the northeast, but by the 1980s, they had shrunk to the 30 million hectares. They spanned 56% of Thailand in 1961, but by the mid-1980s, they had shrunk to less than 30% of the country's total area. Agriculture in the northeast is not favored due to its weak soils. The arid Korat Plateau and a few modest hills make up the majority of the region. The short monsoon season causes significant flooding in river valleys. Unlike Thailand's more productive regions, the northeast has a lengthy dry season and meager grasses cover much of the terrain. On the west and south, mountains encircle the plateau while much of the eastern rim is defined by the Mekong. The center, Thailand's heartland, is a natural self-contained basin known as the Rice Bowl of Asia. From the 13th century kingdom of Sukhothai to modern-day Bangkok, the sophisticated irrigation system created for wet rice cultivation in this region supplied the essential economic backing to maintain the Thai state's development. Inland water and road transportation were made easier here because of the mostly flat, unchanging topography. In 1987, the fertile region could support a dense population of 422 people per square kilometre, compared to a national average of 98. The Chao Phraya River and its tributaries as well as planted paddy fields dominate the topography of the region. Bangkok, the region's commercial transportation and industrial hub, is located on the southern end of the region, near the head of the Gulf of Thailand, and contains a portion of the Chao Phraya system delta. Thailand has a tropical monsoon climate with average yearly temperatures ranging from 38 degrees Celsius to 19 degrees Celsius. The arrival of the southwest monsoons between May and July, except in the south, heralds the start of the rainy season, which lasts until October. The dry season begins in November and December. In January, the temperatures begin to rise and the sun scorches the landscape. Its area's adjacency to the sea to all regions of the Malay Peninsula leads it to have the shortest dry season in the south. Every portion of the nation receives enough rainfall, with very minor outliers. Nevertheless, the length of the rainy season and the amount of rain received varies significantly from region to region and with altitude. The northeast experiences a lengthy dry season and its dry porous soils cannot hold so much water, thus restricting its agricultural potential.
Thailand is one of the most important countries in South Asia. Thailand is a constitutional monarchy. The king serves people Thailand as the head of state under the term of constitution. Thailand comprises of the judiciary, executive and legislative branch. The king and prime minister cover executive branch. The country name is the Kingdom of Thailand and the capital of the country is Bangkok. There are several religions in this country, such as Theravada Buddhism that has 90% of Thailand residents, Hindu and Islam that has a lot of culture and beauty of nature like this and like this. In Thailand, there has the king named Mahabajiralongkorn from 2016 until now. The prime minister is currently held by Prayut Chan-o-cha, who officially from 2014 until now. The prime minister is responsible for the administration of all government agencies except the court and the legislative body. Departure minister to head up the activities of each of the individual ministries of the government. The councils of ministers called the cabinet, and that set government policy and goals. Except that the individual minister will carry out those policies and goals within their own designated minister. There is the local government. The local government is able to mention that is a part of the government of the country, which is the pattern of administration and management relevant to the citizen living permanently in the community and the demands of governance. Legal structure of Thailand administration that has a degree of control over action of the other branch of government. Firstly, the legislative branch can approve or reject proposed bills and is give through review to the budget submitted to it and can make change to the budget within limitation specific in the constitution. The legislative branch flow from the parliament to the Senate and House of Representatives. The second of legal structure is judiciary branch. It carries out most government activities and stabilize government policy. It also proposes most laws to be considered and propose the annual government budget. Judiciary branch from Constitution Court to the Supreme Court of Justice to the Supreme Administrative Court and to the Office of the Attorney General. The last one is the executive branch that preparing the budget and control over the function of the court and how many employees the court may have. Executive branch control over legislative passes to the parliament. All bills must be submitted to the king through the prime minister is oppose to particular bill. Prime Minister can express those feelings to the king that will refuse to approve it in the form in which is submitted to him. Civil Service of Thailand is legal basic. The authority and duties of the Civil Service Commission, recruitment and selection, remuneration and training. Legal basic is based on three principles. First is organization of state administration. Second, the government organization. Third, the Civil Service Act. Thailand Civil Service Administration is a combined system of the centralized, deep concentrated, and decentralized function divide. Civil service is for make a purpose and advise the Council of Administration and to report to the Council of Administration with the respect to the procedure. There has to prescribe rules, procedure and standard for management and development. There has three rotate can join civil service is competitive examination, selection and appointment. All new recruits must attend an orientation course during their probationary period.
So, let's see the economic sector of Thailand. Thailand has rapid economic growth and has been free from the ranks of undeveloped countries and be a good example of developing country. In 1980s, Thailand was a low-income country, but Thailand has been upgraded to upper middle income by World Bank in 2011. Thailand has three economic sectors, which is agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Let's see the first economic sector, which is agriculture. Main output of this sector are rubber, rice, sugarcane, cocoa, palm oil, cassava, and fish product. Agriculture play a big role in economy of Thailand. This economy has two phases. First phase is around 1960s until 1980s. At this phase, unused labor and land has been utilized fully. But during on second phase, the labor has migrated to urban area. Because of that, no new land has been utilized. But agriculture productivity has been increasing because of the mechanization and availability of formal credit. Next, second economic sector of Thailand is industrial sector. Manufacturing is the biggest segment along with mining, construction, electricity, water and gas. This sector has employed 24% of the labor force and about 35% of GDP. This sector also has two periods. The first period is in 1960 till 1995. At this period, Thailand has using policy related import substitution. The second period is in 1986 until now. On this period, the government is more focusing on export. Also, highly intertwined with agriculture, especially as the country's manufacturing started with food processing industry. The last sector is service sector. This sector has account about 56 GDP and 46% in the labor force. We know that Thailand is famous with their many famous vacation places. So, the service sector that have at Thailand are transportation, wholesale and retail trade, tourism, and travel-related activities. This service has been prominent contributors to GDP and generator of employments. Status of inflation and employment rates in Thailand. Inflation is generally increase in the price of goods and service in the country. From Bank of Thailand, which is BOT, inflation rate in 2020 is depressed down from 2019, which is from 0.77% in 2019 to negative 0.85% in 2020. But BOT has estimated that this year will increase about 1.29%. The inflation rate depressed down because of lack of raw materials because of the pandemic COVID-19. The transport price also rose further. The but rate is not stable. It is rise and depress anytime that we cannot usually predict the inflation rate.
Did you guys know that in 2019, there were highest increasing of Thailand baht? Yes, since 2018, Thailand baht has been showing the best progress currency in Asia. The Thai baht has been the best performing Asia currency in 2019, which is rising 7.8% against the US dollar. But this situation gives some effect to the country, especially the two major drivers of Thailand's economy, which is goods export and tourism. Now, let's see what is the effect of increasing of Thailand baht in 2019. The first one is increasing in Thailand baht in 2019 was complicate the country export. The price goods and service will be increased in terms of foreign currency. Outside importance that buying goods from Thailand must pay with high price to lower the cost. Because of that, they will buy less quantity than usual. For example, Ministry of Commerce of Thailand reported that exported rice within early 9 months of year 2019 declined 28.1%, which is only 5.9 million ton. Currency appreciation of baht affect the rice price and market and make it highest price than other countries such as Vietnam, China, and India. The second effect of increasing in Thailand baht is also worsen the tourism industry. In just 4 years, the rise of visitors was 40%. Thailand's GDP is based on tourism, which account for 25% of the country's total. But when the exchange of foreign currency to baht become more expensive, the tourists will not attracted to come because of the high cost. Due to that, Thailand Tourism Council has decreasing the number of tourists, which is less than 40 million since the Thailand baht currency lowered than other foreign currency. Last and not least, it also increasing the gold flows. Production of gold in Thailand are in very small quantity. In August, the gold was shipped and account 7.4% of entire export of the country. The large flow of gold was increased the pressure of currency. Thais who had previously purchased the gold were taking advantage of the percent surge in world price to above 1,550 an ounce, according to the gold merchants. So, this is the reason export of golds increased, and there also no fund parking because gold investor wanted the cash. So, there were bad effect and good effect of currency appreciation of Thailand. However, the government has more than one solution to overcome the problem that happened during that period.
The Thailand baht has appreciated dramatically versus the US dollar, outpacing several other developing market currencies. However, as the country's domestic economy suffer, economists say this trend is causing concern. Thailand currently has gains more than 5 against the dollar since the beginning of the year. On a year-over-year basis, it has risen even more by about 8%. Other top-performing emerging market currencies in the area has risen against the dollar as well, but this they train the baht. So far this year, the Indonesia rupiah and the Filipino peso has both gained more than 3 against the dollar. In a report early this month, Garen Letter, senior Asia economist at research company Capital Economics, warns that policy market and exporters in Thailand are once again voicing alarm about the strength of the baht. While most developing market currencies has increased in value versus the US dollar, in current month none has risen as much as the baht. Thailand doctrine supplies and a hawkish central bank, among other things, has bolstered the baht strength. The strong current is exacerbating the Thai economy's problem by harming export even more, said Marcus Sapal. Asia economists at Dutch bank ING stronger currently resist the cost of the country's export, making them less appealing in foreign markets.
The strong but according to analysis in Singapore, Bank DBS is triple news for Thailand trade competitiveness. They reference a Bank of Thai research that found that every 1% increase in the baht value versus the dollar rises export price by 0.3% in dollar terms. Data released on Thursday revealed that the country's manufacturing production for June was trending in the same direction. It dropped 5.54% from a year ago, which was more than the forecasted 3.15% drop. Economists predict that the current central bank will give in to public pressure and lower interest rate to stem the baht's risk. Nonetheless, they doubted that such a move will be effective. The Bank of Thailand may contemplate a rate drop to assist decrease the baht's will appeal, but it will not be a panacea. DBS analysts would in a note noting that a 25 basis point cut will just revise December risk by the central bank. According to ING's Sakpal, any reduction will provide limited effects. While this should relieve some of the appreciation pressure, the baht may not yet be supplanted as the best performing developing currency.
Since the beginning of 2018, the Thai baht has been becoming Asia's best performing currency. It has risen more than 8% year-on-year versus the US dollar, reaching a 6-year high this year. However, the strong currency, according to news headlines and opinion, has decreased Thailand's competitiveness and harmed both goods exports and tourism, two important economic drivers. Thailand isn't the only country that has seen its currency appreciate. The Bank of Thailand's board officials and currency specialists attribute the baht's increase to local factors. Thailand's strong economic fundamentals, which include a current account surplus and significant foreign reserve, as well as a hawkish central bank, attract inflows of capital. The baht is a safe haven currency for developing market currencies because of its stability. As a result, the baht's value is expected to remain stable or increase, attracting speculative money and exerting upward pressure on the currency. The baht is a regular participant in the foreign currency market. However, when the market expectations are strong, it's going to be expensive and ineffective. By acquiring foreign reserve in exchange for Thai baht, the central bank helps keep the Thai baht low and volatile. Increasing foreign reserve and ensuring the stability of the baht might help it preserve its reputation as a safe haven currency. Capital regulations are effective in taming offshore money inflows that cause the baht to appreciate rapidly. On the other hand, have long-term negative effects for the country's credibility and financial markets. To stop a prior round of significant baht appreciation, the board introduced capital inflow controls in 2006. The stock market crashed and the bond yield soared, prompting the central bank to ease some of its restrictions within a day. As a result, capital restraints are improbable due to their long-term consequences. The business sector's most pressing demand is for the central bank to lower its policy rates. Further rate decreases, it is widely assumed, will make the Thai baht less appealing to foreign investors, lessening baht pressure. However, it is uncertain if rate decreases will be beneficial if money flow into Thailand because of the idea of a safe haven currency rather than a high yield. More crucially, loosening policy rates is exacerbating Thailand's already large household debt, which stands at 78.9% of GDP, endangering the country's financial stability. However, given Thailand's unstable political condition, it may be the only alternative available to the country. The strong baht could simply be a result of global dynamics. that are reducing exports, such as slowing global GDP and trade tensions. Furthermore, weakening the baht is difficult when other countries' easing policies are even more active. Even if it increases household debt, many people still hope for another rate cut this year. Let us not forget in the midst of this argument that the central bank's ultimate goal is to maintain stability. If a cheap export sales plan conflicts with the board's core aim of economic solidity, it is unreasonable to expect the central bank to back it up. Under non-page system, exchange rate fluctuations are unavoidable. Rather than competing on price, policymakers should focus on assisting exporters in selling items with more added value.